Today we're going to talk about game planning. It's a pleasure and privilege for me to be here and represent Ferris State University in this Glazer Clinic presentation. My name is Rob Zeitman. I'm the assistant head coach at Ferris State. We're a Division II school that participates in the GLIAC conference, and we're located in Big Rapids, Michigan. This is our first year under head coach Tony Anise, and we had did some great things, and look forward to sharing them with you today. We do have a spring clinic. It was very well attended last year, and we anticipate it being even bigger and better this season. It's April 20th. Registration's at 9 a.m. and then we have our clinic part, and it coincides with our last spring practice, which is helmets only. So you'll see a lot of good fundamental technique work, on the field demonstrations after that. We're going to talk about game planning here today, and kind of like how we go through things. First of all, we believe it's all about us. We prepare for anything we can possibly see. We prepare our contingencies, our what if, or our answers. We expect something that we're not prepared for, and really that's a source of strength for us, particularly with the offensive line. We'll prepare based on film study like everyone else, and we always tell them, expect the unexpected. Expect to see something that you're not going to see or in practice, and let when they start to junk it up, as we call it, that's a source of strength to us, because we know that they're running at the very least their second best defense and not what they're most comfortable doing. And make sure your players know the opponent is forced to do something they haven't done before because of our system. We feel that gives us the advantage. And as soon as we see their cards, as soon as we see what they're doing, then we make sure everyone knows the adaptations that we make in order to expose what they're doing. So that's kind of our mindset, as we go forward, and kind of setting it, that way in the minds of our players, particularly our offensive line, particularly our quarterback. Some of those skill guys, doesn't make a difference to them, but most of our guys, it's instrumental in kind of the preparation phase. We set the tempo by the way our team moves. We always run from place to place. We have a finish line for every drill, and we really work hard at moving our guys fast, moving them around fast. We drill the same fundamental skills every day. We change when we have the period. We do move our periods around in practice, but we don't change the drills. I feel like by doing that, we can become sound fundamentally. Otherwise, you're always chasing. You're always chasing to become fundamentally sound. If you don't do it from the outset, then you kind of put yourself in peril. And when things start, when you have to make those adjustments, you don't have those fundamentals techniques to lean on when you need them. Make sure you review every play, because in this system, plays are only good versus certain looks. There's certain plays we like to run versus certain fronts, or versus certain secondary structures, and we need to have all of our plays up and ready to go, at a moment's notice. We always have a practice plan, and we stick to the schedule. 2 hours is enough. We'll have a 10 or 15 minute walkthrough before practice, but we're on the field and off the field in 2 hours. And for us, we're limited by the NCAA, number one. Number two, we're limited by the class schedule of our players. But we feel like if we can move from drill to drill fast enough, and we can get through things fast enough, then 2 hours should be more than enough for us. Practice every situation you can practice. We never want to put our kids in a situation that they haven't seen in practice. Practice periods, we run a team tempo drill. Team tempo drill is important to us. We'll stretch by position. We'll come and do what we call bulldog blitz, which is some agilities over agile pads and whatnot, just to kind of get everybody emotionally invested in practice and get everybody moving, at a fast tempo. Then we go to our team tempo, which is really a pursuit drill for the defense, and we're working just our perimeter plays, meaning our jet sweep, our fly toss, our naked boot, and just working those. We'll start at the 30, then we'll go to the 20, then we'll go to the 10. The next group is up, 30, 20, 10. Next group, it's about a 5-minute period, 7-minute period. And if you're in a situation where you don't have the numbers of personnel that we have, put the ball on the 15-yard line, score every time, and still go, as fast as you can go, subbing in guys as appropriate. We work fundamental period. It's veer drill for our skilled guys, and they're on the strip, and they're going through and working the veer drill. And then for the offensive line, it's their fundamental periods. Then we do all option team period versus hand shields. where we're just putting the ball at the 10-yard line, running a play to the 20, turn around, run it back to the 10, and back and forth and back and forth, as fast as we can, so that we can get as many reps in. We work our one-on-ones. We're working one-on-ones where we isolate backs on linebackers and slots against, safeties and outside, alley defenders. Our split ends against our corners. We also work, one-on-one pass pro and doing that kind of stuff. Perimeter run pass is an important practice period for us. It puts all of our Skelly personnel out there. We're working all of our runs to the perimeter, and we're perimeter blocking. If you can block for us, you can play for us, is kind of our motto with slots and splits. So, we're kind of working it that way. We'll throw in some play action passing to keep the defense honest, because the defense is going to cheat, no doubt about it. But perimeter run pass is, an important, 10 to 15 minute period for us. We'll go Skelly and inside run. We're working our pass game against Skelly. We're working our inside run game, against the front that we believe we're going to see. We'll adapt that front, as appropriate to make sure that we're squared away when they start to junk things up and change things. So that's important. We do pressure pickups. We're bringing the house against our offensive line and working our 5- and 6-man protections. That's an extremely important period for our defense. And we're kind of their guinea pigs for a while, but it also gives us a chance. Even though we're an option team, we don't see a lot of fire zone stuff. Gives us a chance to become more familiar with trading off guys and making sure that we're sound in our pass protections. Our team period is obviously important for us. It's where we're getting in the bulk of our game plan, particularly the run game. We're moving it up 5 yards every time. We're starting at that 40 and working down to the 5-yard line and turning around and coming back. And when we get down there to the 15, 10, 5-yard line, normally we'll tell them it's not a goal line situation here. Just continue to run the play. Or if we want to get it in a goal line situation, we'll put it, on the 5-yard line and say, we're going to work goal line plays here for a minute. Don't move the ball. So the team period, is important for us. We also do situational offense where we're ones versus ones, and if it's a third down scrimmage or whatever it is, we're working all those situational drills. This is kind of how we structure our practice to game plan and get ourselves ready to go. Our situational offense, like I mentioned before, there's a 2-minute offense where we'll put the ball, normally at the 20-yard line and roll with it, putting time on the clock and a certain, either we're down by, we need a touchdown to win, or we need a field goal to win, or a touchdown and 2-point conversion, whatever it is. We'll work, goal line offense. We'll work that. Normally it's a third down goal line offense, a third down scrimmage. We'll work coming out from a tough territory. We'll work an overtime period. We work Hail Marys and gimmicks. Normally we'll work on a Friday, which is the day before the game for us, our pre-practice. We'll make sure we review our inventory of gimmick plays or special plays, and we definitely get the Hail Mary down. Working 4th and short as a situation. We work 2-point conversion, and then we work. You've got 3 plays to win the game. You've got 2 plays to win the game. Put the ball at a certain place. For 2-minute offense, we start on our own 20. We have a clock running. We use different scenarios. We have someone set the ball. We make sure the person who possesses the ball knows where to run the ball. So we know that you're running to the sideline. If if you're getting to those numbers, we got to get you out of bounds, and you're going to get vertical if you need to. If you're running in the middle of the field, don't change formations unless the clock is stopped. That's something for us. Be patient. Takes what the defense gives you. Scan on every dead ball. So if we get the ball out of bounds, or if we if we're in an incomplete pass situation, we're going to scan every single time. Make sure the offense knows what they need to win the game. Kick the field goal. So go through the special teams one way or another. Either you're kicking the extra point or kicking the field goal. We try and weave special teams in as much as we can to our normal practice schedule. When we work goal line offense, it's 3rd and goal from the 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we do a 2-point conversion play to win the game. We do that. We do that quite a bit, and actually our last play of the game, to win the game in our 11th week was a 2-point conversion to win the game. So we had done that 11 times, so it wasn't something that was new and different to us. When we're talking about third down scrimmage, we're going to work all these scenarios. 3rd and 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, and 1. When we're competing against our number 1 defense, we feel like we need to win just win, get 7-5, and then we got to be 8-4 or better when we're working against our scout team. So we're trying to be competitive. There's a finish line or a goal in mind, certainly in this as well. When we're coming out, when we're in tough territory, we put the ball on the 1 yard line and try to get one first down. If you give up a safety, be prepared to do the next play, kicking or punting from the 20. If you get to 4th down, punt the ball backed up. Very important for that. If you get the first down, then we want to move the ball back and punt the ball backed up. So we want to be able to punt that ball from a backed up position, virtually every series, even, whether or not we're successful, we need those reps of backed up punt. I don't know if we might not have had a backed up punt, all season, but, we need to be prepared for that. Overtime period, go through overtime rules during the preseason practices. We have a coin toss to make sure that the players know the options that they have and know what we want from those options. We play by the exact rules we need, to use to win the game, and even to the point where, there's nothing more embarrassing as a coach than you score in overtime, you had the ball first, and your team rushes the field thinking they won the game, and now they got to go play defense. So we've got to have our kids, mentally locked into what the rules are and how to play overtime and what's going on. We think about the plays we want to use when we're in that situation. So all of those things come into play when they're in a situational challenge. So we have different situations, and when we're in preseason practice or in spring practice, it would be summer practice if you're a high school guy. We'll run a situational period with our defense, ones versus ones, where we'll work all these situations. So we'll come out from the 5. Offense gets a point if we get 2 first downs. Start at the 50, and we got to score a field goal or touchdown to get a point. Start from the 20 going in, and we have to score a touchdown to get a point. 4th and 1, offense gets a point if we get it. All right. Must get a 2-point conversion for a point. 3rd and 6, must get a first down on 1 down. All right. Ball is on the 40, on the negative 40, and it's 2nd down. We must score to get a point. We can only use 3 downs. Okay. And then 50 seconds and 1 timeout on our own 40, on the minus 40, and we have to score to get a point. Start at the minus 20, have to cross midfield for a point. We have the ball on the 50, and we have to score a touchdown 1 play. So we work those scenarios, and we got a coach with the script, and he's yelling it out for the next scenario so that we're moving fast, and that's kind of how we're preparing our team for the situational aspects of the game and just the tempo of the game as we see it, in terms of game planning. Now we're going to kind of switch gears here and kind of talk about what we are thinking in terms of attacking various fronts. What can we do with formations to manipulate the defense and to giving us a favorable situation to run our base plays? Understand that we are an option first team. We're going to try and manipulate things to run inside veer and run midline. Okay, our inside veer triple play and then our midline option. So we're going to do the very best we can to do that. We're going to use formations to do it. We're going to find out the defensive rules in terms of formation adjustments. We want to find out the defense's rules in terms of motion adjustments. And we want to find favorable personnel matchups and use formations to isolate those matchups and exploit them. So these are the types of things that we're thinking as we develop a game plan. Now we're going to go through the various fronts here and kind of talk to you about what we're thinking and how we're preparing for each one. So if we're facing a 4-2-5 team and right now you're showing a straight cover 3 look, a 1 high look, we'll use undetectable motion for the slot to the side of the 3 techniques. So we'll, here's our 3 technique here. So what we'll do is we'll motion this guy and just see what their adjustment is. Are they trying to move to 2 shell? Are they spinning down with the free safety as shown here? What are they trying to do that? We feel like we can run. We feel like we can run inside veer with the full motion, or if we want to short motion it and insert the guy to run midline, we feel like we can do that. It gives us the ability to do both, and we just kind of find out what their secondary structure is. We want to know where their outside backers are playing with reference to our slots, and then how their free safety's moving and those alley defenders are moving on our motion. Whenever we're in a 1 high look, we're always thinking in terms of our play action, crack to seam sideline route. If this guy's flying down to try and be that extra defender on option, then certainly crack the seam and sidelines a play that's good for us. If he's not, if he's playing the top part of the defense, so we see him on option, he's just kind of sitting back, then we don't feel like we need to block him as much anymore. So and that's important for us as well to understand. So we can change some blocking schemes in terms of our run game if they're just solid 8-man, not trying to cheat another guy in or those types of things. Another play that we like to use, in this set is we'll move this slot across, the left slot shown here. We'll motion him across. Our offensive line is all gap protected and trying as if it's a rollout pass to the right. So that's what they're doing here. We're motioning across to seal the edge, to seal this defensive end right here. So we're going to make sure that we get leverage on him. We're going to snap the ball and we're going to run as if it was load option right at this alley defender, right at that guy. In the meantime, our routes are, number one is getting vertical. He's just trying to get vertical here. And then number two is working at 6 to 8 yards underneath in a vertical plane underneath that number one's route. And essentially what we're doing is we're going to run at this alley defender. If he comes up to defend the run and force the option pitch, we're actually going to throw the ball. Okay, because we're pass protecting here, we can get away with that. If he drops like it's a pass and he's trying to, get in that seam to flat, then we're going to run. He's just going to, quarterback will pitch the ball, and our receiver who's curled up there is actually going to block him. Okay, it's a good third down play for us. We're just trying to mess with this alley defender. Another way, obviously, is to isolate him is to run seam pass, off of the veer action. So those are a couple ways that we're working on that guy to try and make him pay for getting nosy in the run game. Another thing that we like to do is we'll stack our formation. We'll stack these guys vertically. We don't move our slots, but we move our split ends in to where they're in almost like an I formation out here. We stack them. We can run inside veer out of this, but the bubble scenarios are really what we like. So if we motion this left slot across, all we're trying to do, we're compressing a formation so that we can get to these guys and get these guys leveraged and get to the edge. So we'll run the bubble screen to this guy here, and then even if they're coming in off our motion or sliding across, we feel like we've got them out leveraged there. So fly toss, in addition to the bubble, to run in the bubble, we can run the fly toss to the motion guy, or we can also run inside veer. Those are some things that we like to do. And then there's some play action stuff off the bubble that we can do to kind of have him as if he's blocking him, and then just work vertical and have him work like a crack the seam route here. So we're working our play action off of that as well. So that's something we really like to do. We want to if we really are desperate to run our inside veer stuff and continue to manipulate them to do that in the 4-2 box, then we'll add a tight end. So we put our tight end here on the left side. We're going to make them declare a 3 and a 1. Here they put the 3 technique over here, so we can motion our left slot, who's now off the line, but he's positioned as a flanker, and we can do that. We're going to guarantee what we're going to get, 3 technique and 1 technique. If it's flipped, they give us a 1-5-9 kind of deal here, then we can run inside veer to the left. So we know we're going to get it, and here it is designated now. So now we know we can run inside veer to the left-hand side. We're gonna crack on the safety, and we're gonna arc for the corner with our tight end. So we know that we can run midline back to the split side. We're gonna have to motion to get the inside backer, but we know we can do that. You also want to cheat this formation to the wide side of the field for inside veer, so you put your flanker tight end to the wide side, particularly in this set, where there's 1-5-9. They go to that under front and kind of deal with that circumstance. Another thing we can do is go to trips, and we'll work trips nub. So now we put the defense in a bit of a bind here, still declaring their 1 and their 3, so that we can run inside veer back to this nub side. And what are they doing on this motion? We'd move our slot here. If we're getting a lot of free safety and he's kind of cheating in a little bit, then we can still run the motion and just bubble back to this kid, right here, and we feel like we've got something going this way. or we can insert this kid on a short motion and block midline. So we feel like all we're trying to do is work leverage and numbers here to try and create a mismatch and a favorable situation for us. Now we're looking at what a trade set, what we call Jeep line or Jeep ram. How does the free safety play this? We're looking for quick game. Are they a 3-man edge here? Are they a 2-man edge on the left side? Do you get an under front like you're seeing? Because we can run, we can run counter motion here. Normally we'll get the free safety kind of moving back to the middle, and then he still gets into pitch phase and he's the pitch back, and we're running inside veer back to the left. Or do you get a 3 technique and a 7 technique to where you can run midline against it? How are they playing this? So and you don't even need motion to run midline in that scenario, because you can just run your tight end into the middle and into the inside backer and block out with your tight end. So that's or with your tackle, excuse me. So that's some of the things that we like to do against that 4-2-5 defense. Here we are. Now we're going to kind of transition and prepare for the 4-3 defense and how we're going to deal with the running the option against them. Whenever we face a 4-3 team, immediately in our minds, the first play that comes to mind is midline, because if you walk out the Sam and the Will on our slots like teams sometimes will have to if they're in a straight 4-3, automatically here we are running midline. We're blocking out here, we're releasing there, we're doubling here, and then we're wheeling and sealing here. There's no motion. These guys can just run bubble action, as if they're running bubble, or they can block, they can go block this guy if he's head up or outside of them, whatever it is. We're just trying to see. Our biggest issue is what these guys are doing. Are they run guys who are cheating just a little bit wider so to appear to defend the pass, or are they pass guys that are not involved in the box? So that's what we need to do. When we see a 7-man box, if they're really cheating in, if they're cheating in or even fire zoning and triggering off the snap, then we need to throw the football. So we understand what it is for that. And here we are, when they cheat to defend the run, we attack the perimeter with the quick game. We explore bubbles, which is our bubble screen to number 2. Zip, which is the slip screen to number 1, is shown here with number 2 blocking most dangerous off of that. And then we're also going to try and play other quick game things. So we're going to look for the hitch. If the corners are soft, we'll shoot the hole with the fade. If they're in a real tight and up in your face kind of cover 2, and we're still going to try and outside release it, even if they're leveraged that way, and force them to play their defense, and we can slip it inside. We're just trying to shoot the hole in between the corner and the safety. We need to understand if they're in quarters or they're in cover 2. If they're in a traditional cover 2, then we'll run a smash concept like we're drawing here, or if they're in cover 4 quarters, then we'll just hook him up at 10 to 12, and we'll run him with a post behind it, trying to make this free safety be wrong. So once we understand that, we feel like there are some, which we call the pull concept. There are some things that we can do in the passing game in order to make them pay, for how they're defending us. The other thing we need to know is as we're running our inside veer stuff, as we're doing this, are they spinning a guy down? We want to find the crack the seam and the sideline route. If they're bringing this guy hard across to defend that, then we can go backside post, and then we just drag this guy. So now we're kind of high-low in that corner and making him pay for this strong safety, coming too far over the top. So, we're going to get vertical on this hash, so we kind of stay away from him, and, we feel like we're kind of good to go on that. Add a tight end again. This formation forces them to declare strength in terms of 3s and 1s, so that we can run inside veer, our triple play to the right, and then we can run midline to the left with either no motion or motion going away. So if we wanted to motion like this and we get a corresponding change in the secondary, that might help us to just run inside veer, or run midline back this way. We're blocking out on him, we're releasing straight for him, we're here, and then we're double teaming here, and then the backs running the midline and the quarterback's breaking off the mesh and then getting vertical in here, and we got the safety guy going the wrong way, and him kind of working back like that. So if that's what they're doing, that's an answer that we have. We still have the quick game, and we're going to try and manipulate boundary and field, to make things better for us. Go to a 3-by-1, passing formation to get the defenders to kind of change their secondary structure or see what their secondary structure is in 3-by-1 stuff. We feel like we can still run midline. One of the things we like to do is vary the types of 3-by-1 sets that we have. Here you see number 2 and number 3 stacked. Number 1's off the line. If we motion number 1, what's their corresponding secondary change? I mean, there's a lot of moving parts here. They're going to have to move back up, like that. You got one guy in motion and 4 guys adjusting defensively. So, are they able to do that? Do they recognize it? That kind of deal. The other thing is you put it into the boundary, and are they willing to move their secondary structure like that? If the right side was the boundary side, or are they going to have the free safety over the hash, and then the strong safety of the field here, and then we feel like we have a numerical advantage of the boundary if they do that. So are they cheating personnel to the field, when we run our formations into the boundary? So that's another thing we're looking for when we're facing that 4-3 defense. Again, everything cheated to try and manipulate into inside veer or midline. We see this 5-2, or what we call the 3-2 box. It's the same concept, really, as the 4-3. We're looking at these guys, these outside alley defenders. Are they cheating to defend the run so we can throw the quick game? It's the same quick game concepts even. It's bubbles and zips to number 1, or the slip screen, hitches, fades, slants, all of our bubble derivatives, with slant bubble or fade bubble, all of that stuff. If they widen to defend the pass, we feel like we've got a nice deal with inside veer and midline at them because they've really thinned the box. We look for bubble and derivatives in 3-by-1s like stick. So what we're trying to do is just run number 1 off. We'll work number 2 kind of in that hole there and bubble number 3. And all we're trying to do is, deal with that concept. We're looking for midline away from trips. This is really good for us because particularly if the boundary is to the left and we're running this, we feel like we'll get that safety, high over the ball, so we won't be there necessarily. And if that's true, then we're blocking out with our tackle. Our midline rules against the 50 are to free release. We're going to take the nose where he wants to go. We'll free release here, and then we'll wheel and seal, into the B gap there. So if we get that, we feel like we have, a nice little area to work with on the boundary side, to run midline. That's a huge burden for them. And as they, I don't really know how they're going to adjust to that. They might move that safety to where he's shown here, and and that kind of thing. And then, they're going to have to adjust and thin themselves to the trip side. So, we kind of put them in a bind with that. We like to throw in the tight end and run a little outside veer. Now we're reading, the man on or outside the tight end. We're going to double the point of attack here on the tackle, and we're going to work to the inside backer and double to the backer there. We're going to, scoop that nose and wheel and seal the backside. We feel like we can run midline as well, where now our tackle will block out and our tight end will fold in. So we get that fold scheme. And then, an inside veer to the split side even, now we feel like we'll still veer release it. We'll still play that game like that. If he's slamming us down hard or he's lined up inside of us, if he's lined up in the 4-eye like that, then we'll do a short arc or shark technique where we'll sit there. Changes the rest of our scheme. Now the guard has to attack the inside number, and now we'll kind of scoop the nose here. So shark's telling us we're going to scoop the nose, and we're going to attack the middle backer or the play side inside backer right here with both the guard and the tackle in terms of doing that. We still have handoff key is the 4 technique or the 4-eye there, and still the pitch key is here, and we've got 2-on-2 on the perimeter. Okay, so we still feel like we're good there. Don't let the safety cheat on the run game. We need to explore matchups with the flanker, particularly when we're working against this corner on this side here, because we feel like he's in a bad place right there. We can also run inside veer back to him where we're arcing for the corner here, and then we're push cracking, on this safety here. We can either shark it like we did before, where we're working out here, or we can veer release it based on what we're getting. So, we feel confident about all those plays in terms of how to do that. We run the oversets. This kid should actually be off the line, and this one should be on, in this overset. So what we're trying to do is just put guys in a bad place. They got to defend the bubble. What's their secondary structure? Who's cover number 2? Okay. Midline to the split side is still a good play for us. Doesn't change anything. Counter motion with inside veer is good, so now we can move him and make him the pitch key, or motion him and make him the pitch key. And then outside veer, and we're going to run now. We can do it one of two ways. We can run outside veer to the heavy side or to the overside as a double option play, where we're doubling here and up, and we're stepping and we're up, and we're scooping the nose. We can run it as a double option play where we're blocking and blocking, or we can, because he's really off and he's really on, we can motion him and run outside veer as a triple play. So either way, we feel good about that. The overset, if they don't adjust secondary wise, then we feel like we've got quick game, here nonstop in terms of bubble and things of that. There's some West Coast offense type deals where they'd run a vertical route. We choose to run bubble instead. That's our preference. We feel like it takes some pressure off our quarterback. If it's less of a timing issue, he doesn't have to be that fast with it. We also want to explore matchups over here if we can, in terms of one-on-one stuff when they do rotate over, and make that eventual rotation like it's shown there. Because now we're kind of one-on-one, on the backside. So that's kind of, how we attack that 3-2 box or 52 defense. Now here's the stack. We get a lot of questions about, our base formation and how we attack the stack. If we don't like to run inside veer against this front right here, but if we were, we could push him and block him on the way to the free safety, and we're going to kind of double team him with the tackles. The tackle veer releases and then works to Mike. But this is kind of how we would do it. Trap is better than midline. Typically, in the weeks that we face this, we're just kind of working. We're doubling there, and then we're just kind of working there. We feel like when we get this motion, a lot of times these guys are working towards the edge, and they're trying to get an extra guy there, to defend our inside veer stuff. So, that's kind of where we are. The other thing we need to identify is that if those alley defenders, not the stack backers, but the W and S as shown here, are they DN types, are they linebacker types, or are they DB types? That's going to give us a lot of clues to how we're going to attack it, because essentially we want to put them in a bind. Here we're putting that Sam in a bind. If he covers the tight end, and they make no other adjustment, then we've got bubble screen, we've got outside veer regardless of what they do. If they don't adjust and they stay in this, like we saw a team last year, against us, stay in the 3-3 stack, even though we went to something similar to this. We feel like we can double up to the backer, and we're going to get giveries till the cows come home. We're just going to run outside veer and get vertical right here, and we can run it as a double option play, not move anything. We don't want anything to change. We got a great picture, and away we go. So those are the types of things that we're looking at. We're trying to put them in a big time bind. What are they doing with their will here? Is he playing in space off of this guy, or is he attaching himself to the line of scrimmage? If he attaches himself, then we want to explore all kinds of mismatches, hitch, fade, post, whatever we can do to kind of work this backside kid open, and then we're playing bubble outside veer games with the guys on the front side. A lot of times we'll get an adjustment that puts us into the traditional 52 look. Now we're going to continue to run, all the stuff that we had talked about against, that 52, 3-4, 3-4 look, we're going to run it here. So we feel good about continuing to run outside veer, look for matchups weak side in the quick game, and also strong side in the quick game. Quarterback counter can keep them honest in the run game. So, those are the types of things that we're kind of looking at in terms of attacking, this 3-3 box. Another thing we can do, a more traditional set, is to really, if we determine those guys, if it's a 3-3-5 and these guys are DBs, this guy and this guy, there's nothing worse than to put a defensive back on the line of scrimmage. And we feel like this puts them in a tremendous bind by having, two receivers out here. Again, they've got to cover down on him, or we're gonna continue to exploit that. And also, having these guys as a handoff key and their DBs. I mean, we feel good about our outside veer play. Working up to this guy, and then we can even counter motion here and bring him in pitch phase and run outside veer triple or even inside veer triple. Doesn't matter. So we can run a triple play off of that. The more you spread these guys out and make them cover down on gaps, the more we like trap, and kind of doing those things in terms of running inside trap and maybe dealing with that circumstance, because a veer release, typically he's going to work to the outside of the trapper unless he's on some kind of stunt, and even something as simple as running straight dive or wrapping the center around, is something that kind of hurts this defense, working up for the backside backer now, and he's just wheeling and sealing the backside. Sometimes that's enough to get them going. So those are some of the things that we see there. One of the potential adjustments is that they displace a guy. We need to understand that now the inside is really open, so that's something they can do, and that's the 3-3 defense and how we basically, where our mindset is as we attack that defense. The next thing I'm going to talk about, the last thing we'll talk about here, is using the overset and really a 3-play goal line package. Here's your 7-man box. Doesn't really matter what it is. They're in a man coverage situation. We're covered here. The number 2 receiver is covered, so we need to understand that. We're going to just run that fly sweep. We're going to toss the ball wide. We need the ball tossed wider than the offensive tackle. That really kind of negates the effectiveness of that DN, so that he can really run, reach wide and get to this, the next guy here, whoever it is, the inside out pursuer, and kind of challenge him. And then we're just 3-on-3 here, and he catches the ball, and we're it's goal line package, so we're 8-9 yards away, and it's kind of pick and alley. It's here, it's maybe in between them, or here, or if they all trigger in, then we can work the outside. But that's kind of the first play. Don't forget that when we run our fly, our fullbacks or running backs headed backside, which is kind of setting up stuff that we want to do later. The second play is really, if we get that kind of structure, or we're getting guys, and if he's moving and he's kind of moving hard on the motion, and we're getting the corner that's manned up and sliding across with our motion guy, then we feel like we can get him on speed option back to the backside, where we'll read him and pitch off of him, and now we're just doubling this 3 technique and working back, or I'm sorry, 5 technique, 3 technique, and working to the backer, or whatever front we get. We feel like we can kind of deal with that circumstance. So that's the second play, or it could be the third play, because this one really comes off of that first play. Now we're he's running with the motion, the corner's running with the motion. We've got the linebackers that have kind of readjusted themselves, so we've moved him and shown him here and shown him moving out, in terms of the fly stuff. We're going to run our boot pass, so we're running our fullback to the front of the end zone. We're running this slot to the back of the end zone, and then we also say that our number 1 receiver runs the goalpost. When we're inside the 20, we're running our boot pass. We just run him the goalpost, gives him one last look. If he gets someone in his face, he can just kind of throw the ball. You need to remember that he's an ineligible receiver, and so he can run a bubble, because we run our bubbles down the line of scrimmage, so he just can't go out for a pass. So we need to understand that in that 3-play package. This, like I said, that this presentation has been about game planning. Hopefully you understand from a practice point of view how we go through things, situationally how we attack that, and then from a play caller's perspective, or attacking a front's perspective, or a secondary structure's perspective, what goes into our thought process from the various fronts of a 4-2-5 to a 4-3 to a 3-4 to a 3-3. So appreciate you listening, and thank you very much for your time.